Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In northern Gaza, at least 93 Palestinians, including children, were killed today when an Israeli airstrike leveled a 5-story apartment building sheltering displaced families in Beit Lahia. Dozens of wounded people were rushed to the Kamal Adwan hospital only to be denied care. Just one doctor and a few exhausted medical workers remain at the hospital after Israeli forces in recent days raided the facility, separated men and women, arrested much of the remaining staff and patients. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk has called Israel's ongoing siege of northern Gaza the darkest moment of the conflict.
The Israeli government's policies and practices risk emptying the area of all Palestinians. We are facing what could amount to atrocity crimes, including potentially extending to crimes against humanity. Israel's parliament, the Knesset, has approved a law banning the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine from operating inside Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories. The UN agency, known as UNRWA, is tasked with providing food, health care, and social services to Palestinians as a critical lifeline to Gaza's surviving 2.3 million residents who face widespread famine and malnutrition due to Israel's unrelenting year-long assault. The ban on UNRWA was approved in a 92-10 vote with the full support of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ruling Likud party. Israeli lawmaker Sharon Haskell co-authored the legislation.
If the United Nations is not willing to clean this organization from terrorism, from Hamas activists, then we have to take measures to make sure that they cannot harm our people ever again.
Philippe Lazzarini, the head of UNRWA, called the bill's passage a dangerous precedent, collective punishment, and a violation of the UN Charter and international law. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called it unacceptable and said the ban would have devastating consequences for Palestinian refugees. Its passage has increased support for a Palestinian Authority initiative to expel Israel from the United Nations General Assembly. Lebanon's health ministry says at least 60 people were killed as Israeli strikes pounded the eastern Bekaa Valley, including the city of Baalbek. At least 2 of the dead were children. The killings bring the death toll from Israeli attacks on Lebanon to over 2,700. Meanwhile, multiple Israeli airstrikes on Monday collapsed entire residential buildings and sparked fires in the southern port city of Tyre. A survivor said the attacks were aimed at civilians.
What do you expect us to do? They fired at random. They are not hitting military targets. They are only targeting civilians. Can you see people fighting? Why are they targeting us? Are we fighting them?
Meanwhile, Hezbollah has announced Naim Qassem will succeed Hassan Nasrallah as Secretary General following Israel's assassination of Nasrallah in an airstrike last month. Qassem said Hezbollah fighters are continuing to repel Israeli attacks along the border and that the group's military structure remains intact. South Africa Monday filed over 750 pages of evidence in its genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. South Africa says the documents lay out how Israel is, quote, promoting the destruction of Palestinians living in Gaza, physically killing them with an assortment of destructive weapons, depriving them access to humanitarian assistance, causing conditions of life which are aimed at their physical destruction, and using starvation as a weapon of war and to further Israel's aims to depopulate Gaza through mass death and forced displacement of Palestinians, unquote. Over 30 countries and regional blocs are supporting South Africa's case at the International Court of Justice. In Jerusalem, hundreds of protesters rallied outside Israel's Knesset Monday to demand a Gaza ceasefire deal and an exchange of hostages. Israeli police arrested 9 of the protesters as they nonviolently blocked a road near the residence of Prime Minister Netanyahu.
It's solidarity with the hostages. We want our Prime Minister to make a deal, to cut a deal. We want the war to stop. We want the stop of killing and everything. We want, a sane country. That's it. We want to live. I'm 55 years old. I have 4 kids. I'm doing this for my kids.
More than 1,000 writers and publishing industry figures have signed on to what they're calling the largest ever cultural boycott against Israeli institutions. In an open letter, the authors denounce the ongoing genocide in Gaza, writing, quote, Israeli cultural institutions, often working directly with the state, have been crucial in obfuscating, disguising, and art-washing the dispossession and oppression of millions of Palestinians for decades, unquote. Donald Trump is appearing before supporters in Allentown, Pennsylvania today as fallout mounts over his racist Madison Square Garden rally, which included this now viral so-called joke from the right-wing so-called comic Tony Hinchcliffe.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Allentown, Pennsylvania is a majority Latinx city home to 34,000 Puerto Ricans. Pennsylvania, the state, is home to 450,000 Puerto Ricans. Puerto Rican celebrities, including Bad Bunny and Ricky Martin, showed their support for Kamala Harris following the comments. Bad Bunny endorsed her. CNN has banned the right-wing commentator Ryan Girdusky after he told Zateo journalist Mehdi Hassan on air, quote, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. It was a reference to Israel's terrorist attack in Lebanon last month that killed 37 people and injured thousands by implanting and detonating explosives in personal pager devices. This is their exchange Monday on CNN Newsnight.
Nobody wants to be called Nazis. It's very inflammatory. But if you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing...
You're called an anti-Semite more than anyone else at this table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and... No, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. Okay. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying...
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, well, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that...
Did you just say I should die?
You should not...
No,
Did you just say I should be killed?
No.
Host Abby Phillip apologized to Mehdi Hassan following the incident, and CNN released a statement reading, quote, there is zero room for racism or bigotry at CNN or on our air. Philadelphia's District Attorney Larry Krasner suing Elon Musk over his $1 million daily giveaways to Pennsylvania voters, calling it a, quote, illegal lottery scheme. Musk's super PAC has already handed out over $9 million to swing state voters, roughly half of them in Pennsylvania. Donald Trump's vowed to create an official position for Musk and his administration if Trump is reelected. The FBI says it's investigating 3 separate but related arson attacks on ballot boxes in the Pacific Northwest. One of the attacks destroyed hundreds of ballots in Washington State's Clark County, a precinct that's home to a closely watched congressional race in Vancouver. Other attacks damaged ballot boxes in Portland, Oregon, and nearby Vancouver, Washington. Police in Portland have identified a suspect vehicle in the case. Oregon Secretary of State condemned the arson as, quote, an attack on our democracy, unquote. And the World Meteorological Association warned Monday the world is falling miles short on action to stave off the worst impacts of climate change, with carbon dioxide concentrations soaring to a record high of 420 parts per million last year. The WMO says the last time the Earth's atmosphere held so much carbon dioxide was 3 to 5 million years ago, when global temperatures were up to 4 degrees Celsius warmer and sea levels were 10 to 20 meters higher. Co Barrett is the WMO's Deputy Secretary General.
Carbon dioxide is accumulating in the atmosphere faster than at any time experienced during human existence. And because of the extremely long lifetime of CO2 in the atmosphere, we are committed to rising temperatures for many, many years to come.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.